All right, the Reds, Talking Reds live from Liverpool, and Talking Reds doing the build-up to the big Merseyside derby tomorrow, the 237th Merseyside derby, Neil.
The only football match that gets a number. It is the only football match that gets a number every single year. You've got to count them or they've never happened. That's the way Merseyside derbies work. Also, available in the Liverpool Echo, 237. How many Liverpool have won? How many Everton have won? How many have been drawn?
Did all of that on the weekend, the show yesterday. Really enjoyed myself doing it as well. Just for that reason, and we said exactly the same thing, like, why is it the only one that's numbered?
Yeah.
But, you know, I like it. I like it. It's all part of the ceremony. It's the league leaders against the league champions. Yep. It's a tier 1 football match in a tier 3 city. And it's a bit mad, isn't it? Let's be honest. I think you know, like, I'm not getting that vibe in the city that you normally get by now, because obviously it's a little bit different. We can't go, we can't really get together and watch it as such. Everyone's got to sort of change their normal routine, but nevertheless, regardless of all that, it's got everything in the making of it to be a cracker.
There's a really weird thing that happens in the run-up to a derby, which is you either see more or less of your blue mates.
Yeah.
But you're seeing less of everyone. And I think this is part of the reason why it doesn't really feel like there's no one, you're not trying to make a plan, you're not trying to say to people, we'll meet up after if it's a draw, or we'll meet up after X. You know what, there's none of the normal things that happen around derbies. And I think it also hasn't helped that it's come off the back of the international break. So all in, it's just a little strange. It genuinely is a little strange. And, you know, the idea of planning to walk across afterwards or before, or anything like that, all of that's gone. As I say, meeting up in town with people afterwards, well, you can't do that either. So it is odd. It is an odd Merseyside derby. And I think that oddness might continue. I think that part of what's happened for both sides, especially at Goodison, is, if I say that both sides have been inhibited by the occasion, I don't quite mean exactly that. But I think one of the things that happens in the game is that when there's that oppressive atmosphere in a good way, sometimes for Everton, sometimes in a bad way for Everton, like you get at Goodison, sometimes an oppressive atmosphere in a good way for Liverpool and a bad way for Liverpool. But what it turns into is you don't want to lose. Yeah. You get into Goodison Park and you don't want to lose. And I think it's something that's really an underrated thing. And I think if you look at Klopp in Merseyside derbies, 3-0 nils, and the fourth one is a 1-0 where Mane scores in the 94th minute. Yeah. And I think that it might be a little bit different tomorrow. And people will say afterwards, if it is different, it's because the two teams, the big game, the moment. I think it could be as much about the fact that it won't feel like it's life and death if you get beat.
Yeah, it is very surreal at the moment, not least because Batman is standing on the edge of the Liver buildings and things like that as well.
For ages.
Currently in Liverpool, all last night, all yesterday afternoon. Still helicopters buzzing around now when it came in before. And yeah, it just adds to it. Why is Batman in Liverpool standing on top of the Liver?
Why do we live in a dystopia? Why do we live in a dystopia? What have we done?
Why was it us? Why did it have to be us? Both managers have done the press conference, Neil. Yeah. And, you know, some interesting stuff in there. Loads of respect between the two managers, as you would expect. They genuinely seem to like each other, obviously rate each other, because you would, because they're both brilliant managers. But what also came out, which was interesting and is exciting, and who knows, the manager did his injury update thing, and he said, yeah, the lads who had COVID, fine to play now. Mane can play, Thiago can play, they both look fine. He had a semi-moan about the internationals, obviously. You know, he was like, do you think it's perfect them going to Peru and then playing on Saturday morning?
That's not me, no.
But he said no new injuries, everyone available apart from the long-term injuries. But then asked about Alisson, he sort of lit up a little bit and was like, he's doing really well, you know, he's looking great, doing really well. And I was going, is he saying he could maybe?
I think he is saying that. If I was Ancelotti, I'd have gone, God, I think there's every chance that Alisson... I'm now at the point with... I always felt it was a little bit odd anyway, the whole way in which it was discussed, the Alisson thing, and I'm now at the point that I actually expect him to start. I'll be disappointed if he doesn't. And that's not to slight Adrian. I'm not interested in a massive Adrian discussion, debate, whatever. The point about Adrian is that he's better than Jordan Pickford, so let's just start from there and then get on with our lives. Yeah. So I'd rather have Adrian than Jordan Pickford, especially for a game like this one. But I would obviously rather have Alisson Becker than both Adrian and Jordan Pickford, and they can both use their hands. So I would definitely, you know, it'd be such a boost if Becker can play, it'll be such a boost, and I think that everyone will feel fantastic. And if he does, it opens up from a Liverpool point of view. Listen, it wasn't great getting beat 7-2, and it might take a bit of getting over. I think the supporters might get over it faster than the players. And if Becker is fit, then it means that you could pick him, you could pick Matip, you could pick Henderson, Thiago and Milner as your midfield three, and you could pick Mane. That's 6 players who don't play against Aston Villa, and you could get them on the pitch and say, right lads, you're going to sort this out. Big performance from you. And my first choice midfield would be Thiago playing in the 6, Henderson right and Milner left. When Alden's played all these games for Holland, I think that I'd like to see Thiago start and be sharp, and I'd like to see him rise above the Merseyside derbyness of it all. I think there's something to be said for that. I expect if Rodriguez starts, he can offer the same thing for the Blues. Yeah. There's something to be said for someone who's not been bogged down in Merseyside derbies.
And they're both so good as well.
Yeah, they're both terrific footballers.
It's like when when you buy a certain class of player, and we all do the Merseyside derby thing, and you drop them in, and of course they're fine because they're so good at football, and I think Thiago's one of them. We just got in the comments there, Joey Murray, was saying, did they have Alan available? Apparently they do. They've got no new injuries either, just again the long-term ones. So all the players that you'd expect to play, I think will play for them as well. On what you were talking about there as well, Neil, I think it's dead interesting about Klopp when you look back at the teams he's picked as well. Because, so often we do the content, we do the podcast and the video and stuff on the site, and we're talking about, well, the team's pretty much the team, the team's pretty much the team. The team's never pretty much been the team when he's played Everton. He's, in fact, never played the front three all together in the front three positions. They've all been on the pitch once, I think, but it was 4-2-3-1. So he's never gone 4-3-3 with all 3 of them up front. Do you think he's going to do this time?
I think he will. I think the question mark is whether or not he should pick Firmino.
Well, Jota's played really well for Portugal, of course, 2 goals and an assist, and he looked like one of the goals is quality.
Yeah. So there's that, and also Firmino's coming all the way back from Brazil, Bolivia, Peru. That's where he's been. He's been in South America, and I think there's an argument that he might decide that he doesn't want to. It's worth saying, we've got 7 massive matches, the 4 league games, 3 Champions League games. There's only really the one against Midtjylland where you'd feel as though Liverpool can rotate off the basis of the fact they're coming up against a weakened side. It wouldn't surprise me if he takes this one as an opportunity to say, you're not going to play this one, going to have you on the bench, want to have a move on 60 and go from there. That said, I hope he does go with the 3 of them, because I think, firstly, there's a lot of chat about Firmino's goal record, not least from me on our shows, but the one thing I would say is his goal to big away game ratio is pretty strong across the last 12 months. Most of the goals he's actually scored for Liverpool have been in big away games. So I think it feels about right that Firmino could produce in a Merseyside derby, and so maybe you whack him on, you give him 60, and then you have a little look at Minamino or Jota, and you go from there on that one. But for me, I'd like to see the 3 of them start. And as I say, there's a part of me that really wants a lot of James Milner.
And you'd do Matip as well, would you? Because Gomez, obviously there's an argument there to be taken out of the firing line as well.
There's a firing line one. I also think that there's something about, I think Matip allows you, we might sit a couple of yards deeper with Matip, which is no bad thing. Yeah. I think he keeps Virgil honest in a slightly different way. I think a lot of the time Virgil sort of feels like Gomez has got stuff under control when it's hard to have stuff under control. But also, I don't want to get into a situation, again, 7 massive games, and I wouldn't play Joe Gomez in all 7 of them anyway, given his injury record. I wouldn't play Matip in all 7 of them anyway. So it becomes, all right, well, which ones do you pick them for? So I'd be playing Gomez at Ajax all day. But then maybe you look at bringing Matip in, and it might well break that for a couple of these players. They might end up playing more of the Premier League games than the European ones or something like that, use the rest. So if Matip's been, and also the other thing is Matip's been around, Milner's been around, Thiago's been around, Henderson got his time for England, but he didn't have to do that much. These lads have been around and at Melwood.
Yeah, and do you put anything into the facing as well, in terms of that decision? So obviously Calvert-Lewin, form striker in Europe and all the rest of it, good in the air.
Very good in the air.
So does that have any bearing on the Matip or Gomez thing?
Absolutely does, yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing that also gives you is it gives you the option of Gomez to come on and play right back. Certainly late in the game, I think the idea of being able to change that a little bit and have 3 who were big in the air, big from set pieces across that back line might be no bad thing as well. There's a universe where it wouldn't surprise me if he just dropped Gomez in at right back, but I think that's actually what I think the Villa stuff undoes. I don't think he'll want to disrupt footballers. I think maybe if they'd have beaten Villa and it had been a pretty conventional game, then he might decide, I could put Gomez right back, I could do this. I don't think he'll want Joe Gomez playing himself back into form in his position that isn't his first choice position, but he might well give him the last 20 if Liverpool are ahead and he wants to shore it up.
We've got loads of stuff around the derby, of course, stuff building up to it. We'll have stuff after it as well. And as I mentioned before, it was a bit throwaway the way I said it, but you know, in all seriousness, Liverpool is in tier 3, of course, in terms of prevention of, you know, the spread of COVID and all that sort of stuff. So we can't go into pubs and things like that unless you live together, and unless the pub does food. Wet pubs, if you like, have closed. We can't go and do the post-match pint the way we would normally, but we are going to come into this building and do it here. It is a workplace for us, of course, and we will do it distanced. So we will still do it in the way that you want, which is in person rather than over Zoom, and we'll keep on trying to shake that up as much as we can and do what we can around that, because you know, we know ourselves that the content is different and better really in person rather than in little squares on a computer. Neil, you've got loads of stuff to plug.
I have indeed. So Rob was there's mentioned post-match pint. We're doing the Friday night in a bit, again in the same location. We've got them to open up downstairs for us a little bit of it so that we can do something and hopefully have it look pretty cool as well. So that'll be happening there, and then we'll be doing post-match pint tomorrow. We'll be doing hot mic, which we're really excited about. Doing hot mic as well for the Merseyside derby. We cannot be together. We can't be in the grounds. We can't be in pubs. In most places around the globe, really, now, if we're quite honest about it, it's frowned upon. So you can come and join us on hot mic. If you just download the app and sign up, it syncs relatively straightforwardly. We've only been on about a 10-second delay recently, so do bear it in mind. We'll be doing that for you all the way through. As I said before, the Friday night, if you do subscribe to our video, we'll have that for you. Loads of fab writing on the site. And another thing that's on the site as well is something about support the team, support the city. So as Gareth said, when he was talking about our wet-ass pubsies, we are in a situation where we are in tier 3. Thank you very much for laughing at that, Jordan. I worked at it. We are in tier 3, and we are in a situation where, you know, in a lot of aspects of Liverpool, cultural life, business life, and charity-based life, there's a frustrating situation going on. So if you check our social stuff, we've done a little thing where you can support the city, recommendations of things that you could choose to buy or organisations you could donate to. So support the team, support the city is on there as well. And obviously all the obvious stuff. Friday's show was great. Yesterday, really, really enjoyed it. We did that one in person. And what we're trying to do is, listen, we know we can't do everything in person, but where we can and where we feel as though it's the key stuff, we're going to be getting ourselves together as much as humanly possible and going from there. There's a big issue with how many people we can have literally in a building. So for instance, the pink tomorrow is going to be remote, but the pink for the midweek game against Ajax will be in person. We're doing the best we can with the regulations, and we hope that you all appreciate that. We're doing the very, very best we can with the regulations, with good order, while simultaneously wanting to keep it as strong as we can and keep that sense of, because I think it's certainly important for me. You know, I'm not going to shy away from this. I think we're all in different ways struggling with different aspects of the fact that this is a second wave, this thing that's changed our lives back in March. I spoke to someone yesterday who lived in Liverpool, moved back last November. So he's now had more time since he's moved back to Liverpool in these restrictions, and he moved back last November. Do you know what I mean? He's had more time having to deal with all of this, and I just thought he was just saying, like, it's doing his head in, and it's doing people's heads in. And so where we can, we're going to try and do stuff together just to be that constant. And it's not easy. No one's saying it is. Both it's not easy in a practical sense, but it's also not easy on a personal sense, is it?
No, absolutely. And you know, try and help those businesses that I mentioned in the thing Neil mentioned there, but also just try and help each other, help your mates, talk to your family. Keep everyone sane as much as you can, because it is tough times. Going to have a little look on here to see what people are saying. Dave, LFC chat, hiya mate, he says, all good if we get 3 points tomorrow. It certainly will be, mate. Dave Lassoff says, I'm pumped for the derby. We've got a heyo from Dylan133 there. Stalebread Productions, that I feel odd. He says the Invincibles were crap. Sam's not here, mate. Sam's not here. Good job, though. Bo Lass says, loving the shirt, Neil, just need a win tomorrow, but we'll take a draw. There have been an awful lot of those at Goodson Park. So
would you take a draw?
Wouldn't rule that out. I'd be alright with it, to be honest.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd be alright with it. Obviously, I'd love it if we won, fuck me. But I do actually genuinely think they're a good side now, Everton. You know, like, it's the best side they've had in a long time. They have got a good manager. They look like they've got structure and shape and good players. And so, yeah, I'm after what happened against Villa, yeah, I'm alright with a draw. And I said that on the weekend, how much the boos are received for saying it. What else have we got? Shut down James and we automatically shut down Calvert-Lewin, says David Lassoff.
I like Calvert-Lewin, you know. I think he's great, and he's a lovely lad.
Nice fella.
Yeah.
Unknown entity, I am 8, he says. I think we've seen from Klopp, he backs a player to play the very next game after having him re-Degsy. So I think he's saying that he expects Joe Gomez maybe there.
It isn't just Gomez though on that, and like, you know, it's worth remembering. So Firmino stinks the gaff out against Aston Villa. He does kite. Everyone keeps doing this thing. We're talking about Gomez now. Kite is ruled out anyway, but the point is he does kite at half time. He does kite at first sub, and it didn't feel like Keita was as poor as the rest of them when you were watching it. But there's something there he didn't like, and I think it was about intensity, and it was about watching the space behind you. And again, this genuinely, the more I talk, the more all roads lead to big Jimmy Milner walloping people for the first 60 minutes of the match in a really no-nonsense way, and then chatting to the referee about it afterwards.
That was my beef. I mean, I've brought it up so many times now, I'm sick of saying it myself, but in case you've missed this nugget, Grealish only got fouled once in the whole 90 minutes, and he was running the show, and he was Megan Van Dijk, and it was like, lads, does anyone just want to, like, you know, put one on him? Yeah, basically, because, you know, that's what happens, isn't it, when a creative fella's taking the piss, and no one did, and I was a bit like, lads. What I would say as well, though, I wrote a piece before for Love, Follow, Conquer, just about how good Liverpool have been at bouncing back, and I went through all of Klopp's results since he's been here. And I didn't realise until I did that we've never lost 2 league games in a row.
Haven't we?
No. So we've always, I think there's 23 defeats, and I think it's 18 wins and 5 draws, something like that, straight after, in the league. So obviously there have been, you know, we've gone out to but league, they've obviously always been able to find something. And even more so when I started digging into it, it was like, you know, when he first came, and you know, we lose that Palace game, and everyone remembers that Palace game. The next game's City away, and we do them 4-1, and we're brilliant. You know, and then we lose another one. I think it might be Newcastle. The next one's West Brom, where Divock scores in the 90th minute to save a draw. We lose another one, and then Joe Allen scores in the last minute against Arsenal. We lose another one, and then Lallana scored in the last minute. We win 5-4 at Norwich. Oh. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's all. What I'm saying is, you know, I'm looking there for a pattern to say, can this manager raise them after something as bad as a 7-2?
And the answer is yes.
And the answer is very much yes. I just think as well, Klopp's just got that thing, hasn't he, that X factor, whatever you want to call it, where you just know if you were to play, you'd want to play for him. Yeah. You know, you'd be hanging on his every word, and he's so good, you know he'll say the right things to them before they go out tomorrow. I
think that's the case, but I just think in general, what he's good at is, he's made a joke today in the press conference, which I really liked, where they said to him, you know, about, you know, is it easy to get your message on the pitch with no crowd there? And he said, well, it wasn't against Villa. And the idea that we can begin, and I think it's important, I felt able to do it quite literally almost during the game, to be really honest with you, against Villa, because it became so ridiculous. But I think it's important to be able to have a moment where you're able to go, we can laugh at that a little bit. And for serious professionals, we don't want to laugh at it too much. But I think there should be a little bit of being able to say, well, that's mad. And come the end of the season, hopefully come April, come May, we're looking at Villa 7-2. We've got all the jokes about it. I always remember at Merseyside derby, actually, when we played against a couple of seasons ago at Goodison, and when Milner came on a sub, dreadful. Absolutely stank the gaff out. One of the worst substitute appearances you'll ever see. The same James Milner comes off the bench in the European Cup final and is great against Spurs. The point is, it's sport and it happens, and at any level, but even at elite level, you can stink. And the best thing to be able to do about that is put yourself in a position that when you're all telling the story at the end of the season, the story is, weren't we terrible at Villa? Isn't it now funny? You know why? Because we've just won the league.
Yeah, let's hope that is the case. Very much so. I'll do a few more comments on here before we get off. Matt Preston says, support the team, support the city, and fuck the Tories. Unknown Entity says, support the city is a wonderful gesture, honestly. Nice one. Only 4 home nations. All right, lad. Says, is that you, Jordan? Says, support them supporting you. The AV Society says, if Everton go ahead with 30 to go, what changes would you like to see? He wants us to talk about the big man, doesn't he? He wants us to talk about Big Divvy, who while every young prospect is seemingly now going out on loan.
Or just getting sold.
Or getting sold. Big Divvy's still there by his locker.
Absolutely reign supreme.
Yeah.
I will be getting some serious time on this pitch. Quite being serious, I have no issue in a game like this with Shaqiri on the bench. I think it's got... I think if you're looking to do something a bit crackers, if you feel as though it's tight on 60, I think if you can turn to the bench and you can see Jordan with everything that he brings you quality-wise, and especially from set pieces, and especially if the intensity of the game's dipped a little bit, I think there's a lot to be said for maybe a bit of a Mad Shaqiri move at some point.
Especially when they've got that goalie and we've got Virgil van Dijk. Also, what else have we got here? We have got... So yeah, we do think maybe a Divock there as well, I think. Hello from Orlando, lad, says PJ. Up the Reds, we will smash the Blues tomorrow. I'm into that chat, come on, lad. Joey Murray again says, any show for Curtis starting this one, with Naby definitely being out. Hendo, Thiago and Jones, he says.
I think if he wanted to do 4-2-3-1, I'd pick what you've just described. So I put Jones in behind. If he does 4-2-3-1, Mane one side, maybe Salah through the middle, or Salah almost go quite old school traditional, maybe even Salah left. If he does 4-2-3-1, it's Jones I want to see in the middle of the three. I don't think he will do 4-2-3-1one. I think he will go with his first.
Any Fabinho in the back four?
I'd be all right with it. I'd be all right with Fabinho starting in general. Again, the same thing applies in that I think there's a run of games coming. So I think he definitely starts at Ajax. I'd be amazed if he doesn't. But I'd be all right with it. But I think he's another one who's come all the way back from Peru.
Alan Gibson says they will play on Gomez and Trent, but that's nothing new, mate.
Everyone does.
Everyone does, yeah.
Everyone does, and it's not some sort of grand theory of tactical nous, this. To be really honest with you, in that they can choose to play on Van Dijk and Robertson, or they can choose to play on Liverpool's right-hand side, whatever it is. And most teams are going to look at that and go, we'll play that side. There's something else that was well in this, and I'm sorry to be really boring, but also you pick the sides that Sadio Mane isn't on. Sadio Mane will work back more than Mo Salah, and that's not a criticism of Salah, that's a tactical decision by Liverpool's management. Salah is the furthest forward, even if he plays off the right. So it means there's this big gap, which Henderson tries to fill in, and I think we miss Henderson massively against Villa. But it means that this gap exists on this side, whereas Mane will do more work coming the other way. So which side are Liverpool defensively stronger on? And that's it. So you're quite right, but it's just a bit like, it's what happens every game. By the way, if I was Joe Gomez, it'd be this that would make me the most likely to ever put a transfer request in. Every game I've got to do all the work while he just looks boss, gliding round next to me, being 6'7" and a god in human form. I'm grafting like nobody's business here because they keep putting 9 up against me.
Ben Stevo says he thinks the Blackburn loan, which is being talked about today, Paul Joyce was reporting this before, a potential Blackburn loan for Harvey Elliott. They obviously are pushing for promotion. They're sort of guaranteeing him some game time. He's not getting that at Liverpool right now. We all know how talented he is. We've spoken to people as well, sort of behind the scenes, who are really excited about Harvey Elliott. But, the fact of the matter is right now, that might work for him, mightn't it? It's not far away.
Yeah. Doesn't have to move house, and that's something. I'm not being banal. I'm not being daft.
He's got his family up here with him, hasn't he, in Liverpool, and literally Blackburn's 40 minutes. Yeah. We all loved it when it was away because it was so easy to do, and because we got the whole end as well. But it's so easy to get to.
That, but also I mentioned before about Shaqiri, the manager will have a hierarchical thing, whether we like it or not, because we all get so excited by young players. But in his head, now that if Shaqiri had gone, I think it might be a different story. But now that Shaqiri hasn't gone, because the transfer window went the way in which it went, he will have the idea that he will start Shaqiri ahead of him. The manager's not into projects. I keep saying this all the time. He believes in youth, but he's not into projects. And I think he believes in... There's something else to be said. I think Elliott's going to be amazing, genuinely amazing. But even if he wasn't, even with what's happened with Brewster, if Liverpool's youth academy brings through Arnold and Jones in a 10-year stretch, that's more than enough.
Yeah, that
genuinely is a success, and I think we all need to relax with that. And what I don't think the manager wants, certainly when it's game after game after game, that's so relentless. He doesn't want projects. He really does not want that. What he's got to do is his job is to get Liverpool to win football matches. So I think the idea that Elliott goes off, he goes and does the business for Blackburn. If he's going to play, and that's the key thing, if he's going to play, it's worth doing. If what happens is he has one bad game and they just bin him, that's where you'd be a bit like, well, I'd rather he was training with our lads than training with their lads. It's worth remembering that, and we only get to see on game day. But it might be that we've decided, listen, he's trained great with us, but he now needs to play some football matches.
Yeah, see what happens with that one. Well, the deadline for domestic deals is 5 o'clock today, so we'll know by then.
Jordan's put a ticker on underneath.
Snoop Dogg, hi mate. He says, big up me nan. Big up Snoop Dogg's nan. Andrew says, hi Gareth, hi mate. Jeff says, we are just better than them and it's that simple. I like that talk, mate. I like that talk. The AV Society says, have you followed the rave bus on your bike yet? I'd love to, mate. It looks absolutely superb. What a great idea. If we end up selling Elliot like Brewster, I'll be disappointed, says Tyrax. And Snoop Dogg adds that his nan has got 6 teeth.
6 teeth?
Yeah.
Excellent 6-tooth nan. That's the title of Roald Dahl's 4th novel.
And what better place to wrap it up than there? That has been your pre-match derby build-up from the Anfield Wrap on Talking Reds. Whatever you're doing this weekend, enjoy yourself. Let's hope the Reds do the business, and that puts a smile on everyone's face. God, we need it. And yeah, up the Reds. I do check out, as we said before, the stuff on the website, theanfieldwrap.com. Thanks a lot. Up the Reds.